Hi, I'm Cynthia Alvarado. I'm the Director of Operations and Strategic Planning for the Midtown Management District, and I also manage the Cultural Arts District. Midtown is one of 7 cultural arts districts in Houston. We're a very blessed city. We have more cultural arts district in Houston than in any other Texas city. Part of our mission with our neighbors is to join together on projects. I'd like to thank our neighbors at Fresh Arts and Arts District and East End Cultural Arts District. That's where this interview is taking place today. Sebastian Gomez de la Torre grew up in Peru. He always had a special place in his heart for the multicolored outfits that the indigenous women of the Andes wore. That's what is inspiring the mural that we see behind me. As he researched the outfits of other cultures in Latin American Diaspora, he saw many similarities and techniques most likely passed down through the ages, thanks to the rich cultures and histories of pre-colonial civilizations. The design for the Midtown sign is called Textiles de Nuestras Tierras, textiles from our lands, and it showcases different textile techniques and designs from across the Americas. The loom, weaved textile techniques, and embroidery that is emblematic of so many Hispanic cultures across the continents that are showcased with reverence and pride. It reminds all Latinos all over the world that Todos Somos, Somos Uno. We are one. Join us today on this interview with Sebastian Gomez de la Torre. Hi, Sebastian.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. I want to get started and ask you, what was your journey from Peru to Houston?
Oh, well, so my mom moved to Miami first in 2001 with the intention of eventually bringing me over. And during that time, she met my stepdad, and they got married, and soon after, I moved here with them to Miami. And then we lived in Miami for about 6 years. And then my stepfather, who used to work in Customs and Border Protection at the airport, he would, meet the people that would come in. He would check their passports, make sure everything's good, and let them through. We moved to Conroe because my stepdad's mother and my grandmother, she lived in San Antonio, and she had some mobility issues. So I guess Houston was Bush Intercontinental was the best place to move to, the closest one that he could get transferred to. And then after that, I was lucky enough to go to the College for Creative Studies in Detroit, Michigan, where I earned my bachelor's in illustration.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, that was back in 2013. And I moved to Montrose the year after graduation. And I've been here since then, trying to work in art and design as much as possible.
Montrose is one of our great Houston neighborhoods.
Yes.
So what drew you to art as a child? Did you always like to color and draw, or Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think so. I think I always had um, a draw to it. No pun intended. Sorry.
It's okay.
Um, but yeah, I always used to draw like Pokemon. I would always copy like, my favorite cartoons, and I think that's how I started. And I always thought that, it would just be a hobby.
Hmm.
And eventually, when I was in high school, we had some colleges come in and kind of talk to us about art as a career, and that's when the gears really started turning in my head to like really pursue this as something more.
Something more.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question because obviously you're a few years out of college now, correct?
Yes.
Um, you know, parents, children always sometimes come to parents that they want to be an artist.
Hmm.
And sometimes children are dissuaded. You should
Sure.
probably go into law or medicine or be an architect or
Hmm.
CPA. And we love all of that.
Right.
But, what would you say to a parent if a parent were to come to you and say, I want my child to be an artist, or my child wants to be an artist? I'm not sure how to talk to them about that,
Hmm.
having a real bona fide career as an artist
Right.
versus being like an architect or something. Talk to us a little bit about that. What would you say?
Sure. Well, the thing about having a career in the arts is that the field is so wide
Yes.
and there are a lot of, quote unquote, secure jobs that you can take as an artist. Um, so I would say that as a parent, I don't think you should be discouraged if your child is considering a career that is maybe not as um, profitable,
Mhm.
or where you may not make as much money as other careers. Because I think at a certain point, being fulfilled in what you're doing is much more important, much more, it's worth much more, I think, than just a paycheck or a salary.
I love that. Thank you for that. For this project honoring Hispanic Heritage Month, tell us a little bit about your process and the vision when it came to creating this particular piece of artwork.
So I came upon the call for artists on Fresh Arts, and I read the prompt, and it said, Todos Somos Uno,
Yeah.
and I I was racking my brain to think of, what's a good emblematic thing that could represent the entire, Latin American people. And I think that the textiles was a a very good way of, not only would it be um, I, well, I don't want to say easy, but it's something that people can relate to, that they can see that it's not it's accessible.
Yes.
Because you want it to be accessible. You want people to be able to take it in without having to have a lot of knowledge about what's going on. um, the textiles are such a bold cultural staple of all of the cultures in the Americas. I thought it
Yeah.
would be there's a lot to draw from, so I thought that would be a very good starting point for this design.
So the theme for this Hispanic Heritage Month, Todos Somos Uno, we are all, we are one. Tell us a little bit about your approach to incorporating that theme into this artwork.
So specifically, I took very established visual designs from different cultures. Like for example, the M represents the embroidery of the people in Puebla, Mexico.
Mhm.
The I is specific to the Mayan embroidery and textile techniques, where they will all of their designs are more abstract. And in my research, I noticed that diamonds and also corn was a very important cultural emblem.
Hmm.
So I wanted to include that. The D is representative of the serapes,
Yeah.
and I wanted to make sure that sort of line work was very evident, so you could really tell what it was.
Hmm.
In the T, you have a more general, abstract design language that you see in the not only in Hispanic cultures but also in Native American cultures.
Yeah.
Um,
The O.
And the O, that's the Otomi culture, which is also in Mexico. And they have these very colorful embroideries that are very, they depict natural things like flowers and plants and animals. The W is actually from the Andes, and they also have a very specific, line quality to them, and I wanted to showcase that. I really love the gradients that they do.
Yeah.
And then the N, I noticed this throughout all the cultures, mostly for their dance costumes.
Yes.
There's a lot of ribbons and a lot of lace work,
Yes.
and I wanted to honor that in this also.
I love it. Do you have a favorite letter? Are we allowed to ask?
I mean, I think, well, actually, I like the I a lot. I like even though it's so ancient, it's
Yeah.
so modern at the same time. But also, of course, the Atomi is so colorful and so fun. I think that's definitely one of my favorites.
But each one of the letters informs the one after it, so
Right.
it's hard to pull out a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, they all
Right.
work in tandem with each other, I think.
Yeah, and you just walked us through all the letters, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Tell me, when people walk up and they see the sign, what do you hope that they walk away with? What is the feeling you want them to have?
This is something that I didn't mention in the material, but when I was researching things, in my mind, in all of these places, there's always somebody on the loom in some remote place in the jungle or the mountains, working on that loom, making textiles for their people in their villages or their cities. And I hope that even without that knowledge, people will be able to make that connection.
That's beautiful. Do we have any questions from the audience today?
No questions, but when I did see it for the first time, I imagine those women in the villages doing the textiles, because it's made from their hands.
Yeah.
Very inspirational.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I think that's it. I don't think we have any more questions. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about? You know what? I do have a question. Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Would you encourage other artists to apply for this kind of an opportunity?
Yes, that's another funny story because I actually hesitated to apply. I think I submitted my entry like at 11:30 on the night it was due.
Oh.
And the thing is, I think you should apply. Maybe I think as an artist, as a working artist, you have to apply to a lot of things, and it can be discouraging.
Yeah.
To apply and spend all that work, because some applications are very, very intensive. And, they have to be, I understand, but sometimes it's very disheartening to go through all that process and then, hear, oh, well, thank you for your application. We'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, sometimes I think it's important to kind of, keep your peace and maybe skip a certain application. But other than that, I think it's always important to just apply, even just to get your feet wet. And, because you really never know. I didn't know. I just thought, I'll do this because I think this is a good fit, and hopefully I'll get it. And if not, I'll have something for later.
And voila, here we go.
Yeah.
The mural, the sign wrapping public art installation, will be up until October 26th over at Bagby Park. That's at 415 Gray at Bagby in Midtown. We encourage you all to please go and visit the sign in person. It's absolutely breathtaking in person. The photos are beautiful, but really when you stand in front of it and you take in the breath of it, it's beautiful. Please tag us at Midtown HOU. In another day or two, we're going to have a QR code on the bottom of the sign on the last leg of the letter N that will direct you to Sebastian's website, so you can find out more about him and a way that perhaps you can hire him for your project.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.